Alright guys, so welcome to the video. Jason Clemens here. For those who don't know, jasonclemens.media. The title of this one, this is number 14. It's something along the lines of non-tangibles specifically, and some of the key points are going to be context and things that you just don't see in business. And it's hard to title something like this because not a lot of people are looking for it, but as you may have heard, it's what you don't necessarily know, what you're not even searching for. I mean, Steve Jobs basically, when he was a master, yes, at design, but also specifically at basically figuring out what people needed or wanted before they even knew it. He basically told people what they wanted. Nobody knew that they wanted an iPhone, or at least very few people did, until they came and they invented it. And so we like to start all these with a quote, and this one's from Nikola Tesla, which actually he envisioned the iPhone, and this was the better part of 100 years ago. Actually, more than 100 years ago, Tesla envisioned the iPhone, that people would communicate across the globe and Earth via an iPhone, and it took Jobs in conjunction with Wozniak and Apple to make it come alive. And so, or at least the physical thing, specific physical iPhone, because a lot of the components were developed over time, but they just put them together. And so this one is from Nikola Tesla. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Okay, and so non-physical phenomena, that's the key. But what do we typically learn? If you have an MBA or even PhDs or even undergrads, if you go to school, or even if you have a high school, just a high school degree, this is what I term academia. And what do we learn in academia? Okay, in academia, what we learn, and I think this is still in, just let me check and make sure this is still in the camera over there. Okay, so typically what we learn in academia are things that you can see, okay, plus touch, okay. Basically, academia functions in the tangible. I think that's how you spell that. I might be wrong, but anyways, it functions in the tangible existence. And so what a lot of people do, a lot of people teaching business, that's how I was going to bring this back to specifically making money and being more successful in business. What a lot of people will do, if you watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, for lack of a better term, anybody basically that you would consider a quote guru in the industry, in the marketing industry, in the business industry, any books you've read, the vast majority of books you're going to listen to on Audible or download on Kindle, or even if you're in the habit of going over to Barnes and Noble and reading books, as I like to do. Most of those books are written from an academic standpoint, academia, or a standard way to teach and to learn. Okay, so basically they're going to deal in things that are not basically things in which you can see. Okay, and so what I can give you an example of that, and I'm just going to sort of ad-lib these. But an example of that specifically would be something along the lines of, let's just call this example 1, okay? Let's say you're selling product or service A, okay? And you're making X dollars. So you're selling A and you're making X dollars. And not to make it confusing, but you're selling Y amounts of A, and that's giving you a profit of X dollars. Well, a standard way of teaching business would be, from a simplistic standpoint, that obviously if you increase Y, you're going to make more money. Okay, so increasing I or Y is going to increase X. Okay, all things remaining the same, A remaining the same. And so if you, it's a common way to teach. It's very linear. So basically, if you want more visitors to your website, write more content. Or if you want to sell more products or services, reach out to more people. And yeah, I mean that definitely works. We talked a lot about that in other videos. It would be a standard way, basically, to go about making more money without making it complex. Okay, and so we've talked about all those, and those I'm assuming that you have down. Basically, if you have a product or service A, and this is something that a lot of people don't teach, but if you have a great product or a service, one of the misconceptions that you hear, especially this is what marketers will teach, and my main background is not just internet marketing. Like I said, I've been doing this, as we talked about in the previous videos, for 15 or more years, going way back to the start when internet marketing was just becoming big, but also I have a background in direct response marketing, and so a lot of what you're going to hear from old school marketers and even newer marketers who basically just are parroting what a lot of those who have come before have said. Basically, what they've said is that if you have, the most important thing is the marketing. Okay, so it places less emphasis on the product. And they say even if you have an average product, which you don't want, but if you have good marketing, that will equal money. The issue is that in my experience, and again, I'm sure not everybody will agree, but in my experience, the best of marketing is not going to sell something that nobody wants, or something that's shitty, or something that just nobody is going to want. And so marketers parrot this, but a lot of this good marketing, this idea of good marketing, has come about from the past, 50, 60, 50, 40, 30, all the past years, where marketing wasn't as easy as it is today, because now with the internet, with mobile, with social media, it's really easy to market with any product you have, whereas back then it really wasn't. Okay, so even pre 2010, back then it was still a lot harder. Today it's really easy, and so good marketing alone, a lot of people are doing good marketing. In my opinion, the importance has flipped onto the product, okay, onto this A. And so if you don't have a good product that somebody looks at and says, oh, that's interesting, I want that, or you don't have the word of mouth, or you don't have the same thing with a service, okay, you have a great service, whatever that service may be, that somebody actually wants, your marketing is not going to matter, okay? And so that's the number one thing, just to get into that. But like I said in this video, we're gonna talk about intangibles. But just know that the foundation of your business, really, in my opinion, is to find a product or a service that people actually want. And from that standpoint, it will drive the marketing. You're not gonna have to work as hard with the marketing. Okay, so. Anyways, we got off on a tangent there, but basically, okay, let's take this a step beyond what you would typically learn. Okay, and one of the ways to do this, I'll just sort of lay out points here, but one of the ways to do this is to talk about context. Context is something, in my opinion, that is an intangible. Tangible. I think I spelled that right. Intangible. Okay, it's something that you're not going to see. I think I spelled it wrong up there. But anyways, whatever. This isn't a spelling contest. So the bottom line is, if you focus on context, okay, so what does context mean, basically? So this is a big one for people who are struggling in business. This is massive. It might even be more powerful than the actual product or service that you have. And it can come up with a whole lot of components. And I don't want to make this overly confusing, but also it's like you're smart enough to understand this. So context would be something along the lines of basically a segment of context could be, and by context I'm talking about the context of what you're offering in the marketplace. Okay, so let's say that you are offering, and this is just a standard example. Let's say you are selling a fitness, and specifically a diet book. Okay, a diet book on Audible. All right, could be anything. Could be on Kindle. Could be whatever. But it's a diet book. Okay. Well, the context of that, and you're having issues. The standard approach, okay, if you were to come, the standard academic approach, if you were to come to this, you're selling a diet book on Audible, okay, and you're not having a lot of success. Maybe you have a few sales, okay, you have a few sales, whatever, a handful of sales, and you have good reviews with your book, or whatever. The standard academic approach would be, how do we sell more of these? Okay, given what we have, how can we possibly sell more of these? Okay, how to sell more? Okay, that'd be a standard linear question. That's something I can see, something I can work at doing, okay? Or it could be along the lines of basically improvement, okay? How do we improve what we're doing? How do we improve the marketing of this? Do we need to add some stuff to the website? Do more people need to see it? How do we do this? Okay, that would be a standard approach. It would basically be legitimizing I think that's right. It would basically be legitimizing the problem, okay? However, the intangible, the thing that most so-called experts in books that you're gonna buy off, listen to on Audible or on Kindle or whatever, are not going to touch on this from a contextual, intangible standpoint. From this standpoint, okay, we would look at this and we would say, you're selling a diet book on Audible. You've got some sales, got some good feedback. A contextual standpoint would be like this. So the question is, why aren't we having more success? How do we have more success doing that? And the contextual would be, is this a legitimate business? And by legitimate, I simply mean, maybe a better word is viable. Is this a viable business? Okay? Is this something that's even worth pursuing? And contextually, the questioning would be very simple. Look at the competition. Okay? Look at the competition, specifically in the fitness industry, arguably easily one of the top 10 online industries in terms of competition, regardless of what sector of fitness you're in. If you're in weight loss or dieting or training or whatever, and I was, if you watched my previous videos, like I said, we've went over in those. I built blogs, that are getting 2,000 plus visitors a day, over 60,000 a month, and still didn't make a lot of money with a product that was getting great reviews, great feedback on everything. And I spent years basically ignoring the question of a viable business in competition and basically asking, well, how do I sell more of these? And so that led me down a path of buying a lot more advertising, spending thousands of dollars in advertising, which, was great from a learning standpoint, but from a money-making standpoint, it's contributed to me basically losing a lot of money, okay? And going broke over time and not being able to actually make ends meet because I'm going down this from a physical, tangible, typical academic way to solve the problem, okay? And that is actually legitimizing the problem. Whereas if I step outside of it, I just ask myself, well, I got a product that people like. It's in a marketplace in Audible, I'm just using Audible as an example, where there are millions of potential customers, okay? Clearly, they have found it because they bought it. Not a lot, but they bought it and they really like it. And yet here I am a year to 2 years down the road and I'm still not making any money. Well, instead of asking how do I sell more, I'm just saying, why is it that this is not working? Is this actually viable? And we come to the conclusion that probably not, okay? It's probably not going to give me the level of success I want because the competition is basically just eating away all the profit. And Peter Thiel talks a lot about this. For those who don't know, I encourage you to watch all you can on him. He's the founder of PayPal along with Elon Musk, founder of Palantir, Palantir and other companies too. He's a billionaire. Really, he has brilliant insights in this. And so from his perspective, competition absolutely destroys profit. It's your enemy. What you're really seeking is, to the greatest extent, is a monopoly. And it doesn't have to be some grand monopoly like Google has or anything like that. It's just what you're looking for when you start a business. Really, what you're looking for is to make that business easy. Okay? So a monopoly equals easy. Now, I don't mean it's easy to start a business, but basically an analogy that I can use here is, let me make sure I'm still recording. Again, if this video shuts off, I'll just make part 2. I might run out of battery, or it might run over on my on my memory. So just bear with me. But basically, you want to focus on monopoly. So obviously making a book in the fitness, that is not a good business. And in most authors who are being honest, okay, even best-selling authors, okay, they will say from a financial standpoint, from a standpoint of making money, it's not a good business, okay? Most likely you're not going to get rich or make a lot of money selling books on Audible. It won't happen. The problem is that there's this misconception that if we become a number one bestseller or we sell a lot of Audible books, okay, that the math will work out and we'll get rich. It's a misconception. It's the same thing as the misconception that on Instagram, the person with 100,000 followers is making a shitload of money. 99.9% of people with that many followers are making no money. The same thing with other social media platforms. All social media is basically people downloading the best possible scenarios of their businesses and their lives. So that's all you see. You don't see all the stuff they don't want to show you. And that's how they're not making money. Okay? Or that they're not showing you those. Okay? But if you look at this from a contextual standpoint, then you get this idea that in highly competitive niches, the profit basically gets sucked out of those businesses. Okay? Because there's so many people. No amount of marketing can compete with it. Even great products in highly competitive niches, it's hard to compete. And so over the course of time, it's going to be a strain. Whereas if I find a product that is a monopoly, it makes it easier. At least from the standpoint of, if let's say I'm selling the only product A, okay, and it is a great product, and people really want this product, and I don't have any or very little competition. In other words, I'm one of the only places they can come to get it. Well, naturally, I'm going to make a lot more money because I can sell way more. And the analogy is I like to use like a fishing analogy. All right, I can have the best tackle, the best fishing pole, the best tackle on the best day. Everything just the best, and I can go. And if there's 1,000 other boats on that lake and it's been overfished, none of that is going to matter. I can be the greatest and I still can get skunked or make no money. And it's a perfect analogy for what you're doing in business. People bang their heads against the wall, and I did it for years, for over a decade, because it takes, not a lot of people are teaching this, number one. It takes a lot of trial and error and failure before you begin to question this stuff. It takes longevity before you begin to see. So you can, in most cases, you have to learn it from the school of hard knocks. But if you just take the lesson from this video, maybe at least something in here will basically give you an aha moment. Okay. Basically, you want to find a monopoly product, or if you have choices, which you always do. Let's say you have 3 potential businesses you could go into, and you're wondering, well, what should I start out doing? And you know equal amount of every business. Well, nowadays, whereas back over when I first got my start, okay, again way back when, I would have taken those 3, and I would have said, well, which one of these is my heart really in? Which one of these do I really want? Okay. Whereas nowadays, I would say, provided I know an equal amount, I'd say, which one of these 3 options is in an industry that has the least amount of competition, where I think I can actually make money? And I'd pick that one because it makes my life easier. It makes everything easier. Marketing becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. And I'm convinced, and this isn't the total story, but there's a lot of people online, a lot of teachers that teach that starting a business is just hard hard thing where you got to struggle for years on end to start the business. But what you're going to find, what I've noticed is the businesses that I've begun, and we've talked about this in the past, that have actually made money have basically, it's been fairly simple, okay, to start making that money because we've offered a product people want and there's not a lot of competition I have to wade through to actually make sales, okay? And from that perspective, it's a lot easier than what people actually teach, okay? So that's an intangible, that's context. What is the context? And that's really the first part of competition I look at. First part of context, I look at the competition. And so if you're not having a lot of success right now, and you have a good product or service, it could be, and people actually want it, it could be that the competition is just too fierce, and you're going to spend the next several years before you figure that out. That's just not going to work because of that. Okay, so another intangible, okay, that I like to look at, basically. I basically like to I like to step back, okay, and I like to look at something from basically what is my market for what I'm offering, okay? What is the market? Okay, and specifically in the market is who is the market, okay? And this is something that doesn't get taught a lot. Who is specifically what I'm trying to offer? Who is it? Okay, so let me give you a perfect example. Okay, so the question again, going back to the standard question, okay, that you can see basically the question where people are basically trying to legitimize the business. I'm selling X number of Audible books. I've got a few sales, people really like it. How do I sell more so I can make more money? Okay, well, you've got to look at this from a standpoint of basically, I shouldn't say who is the market. Really, what I should say is what market am I in? And this market, when you break it down, is not really, from our previous example, the fitness market. Okay? What this market really is, and I'm going to start writing this one in blue. What this market really is basically it's not really the info market, it's basically just the info, it's the book. It's the book market. So a lot of people will call this the information market. The information market is really broad. It could be anything from coaching to whatnot. But really what you're doing is you're selling books. Okay? And stepping back to the previous example, what you have to do to make any money selling books is you need to sell a shitload, for lack of a better term, you need to sell a shitload of books. And even then, most people who sell a shitload of books still don't make a lot of money, okay? They still don't do it. Why? Okay? Typically because it is a very low price point. Or if you're selling on Amazon or Audible, you're splitting your profits basically with Amazon, okay, or wherever else you partner, you're splitting those profits, and then there's other factors involved too. Okay, so you don't wind up with a huge take on that, and so you have to sell a shitload of books to even make any halfway decent amount of money or anything you can actually live on. And so people will rack, and I'm speaking from experience, I got my start selling an ebook, okay, and the prices ranged from $19.95, up to $100, okay, and at $100 we're getting better, but the problem is especially nowadays, 10 years ago, you could do that far more easily. But nowadays, try to sell a $100 book. That all changed circa '08. The entire market shifted after '08, and basically the price point of info product books, okay, what people were willing to pay for those substantially decreased, okay? And you know, you would have to live through that to see it, but it's true. And so nowadays, you know, you're not selling $100 Audible books, okay? You're selling Audible books for $10 or at most $20. And, you know, you're keeping like maybe half of that, depending on what arrangement you've kept out, or depending on what you know. You can keep all of it if you sell them on your website, but even then, it's $20 per sale. If you sold 100 per month, okay, you're only making $2,000 per month, and that is to sell 100. That's not even including refunds. Okay, a standard refund rate is 10 to 12%, assuming what you have is really, really good. Still, 10% of people are going to return it or more these days. Okay, and so it's less than that. And so the numbers just break down. It's not something most people are going to make any real money doing. Okay, and so that's what I mean by what is the market? Well, you're selling a book. Okay, and so no matter how much you legitimize the problem and say, how do we sell more? In the grand scheme of things, if you multiply that by a factor of 5 or 10 or whatever, you're still not making a lot of money. And so coming back to the context, okay, this is probably not worth pursuing. All right? No matter what you do, you have to be brilliant and get extremely lucky to make any big money as an author selling books. Okay, as a side note, most of the people you see writing books, okay, who have bestsellers, you all know their names, especially in business, in marketing and online marketing. They're not actually getting rich off their books. What they're doing is they're using their books, okay, to promote speaking engagements. Because if you have a best-selling book, it just makes it easier to book, basically, speaking engagements. And so this is how these people make all their money. They put out a lot of info and content on social media that makes it seem like they're teaching marketing, but all that's really happening is if they get themselves on the bestseller list, they can book speaking engagements for thousands of dollars. Now that model is big right now, but it's not. As more and more people get into that model, it's going to go away, as with anything else, because the competition is going to increase. Okay, and so those are two ideas of what I mean by intangibles. Okay, and looking at the situation, you have typically the standard stuff that people look at. We want to get out beyond that, and that's where you get into looking at competition and the market. And in my opinion, they're far more powerful because they deal with actually determining if what you have is viable. Okay, in other words, we're not going to legitimize the problem right away. We're going to decipher if it's even viable. And in this example, on both of these, I would say probably not. Now, again, not in all circumstances. There are people who make a lot of money selling books, but odds are that most people are not going to. Okay, most people simply are not going to do that. So let's see if I can give you one more, because there's a lot of things here. There's basically a lot of things here. So another one, a third one, and I'll just keep writing in blue, but a third one, okay, dealing with basically the context of what you're trying to do in your business with the goal of making money, because that's typically one of the main reasons why we're in business. If you don't make money, you're not going to last long, okay? And so you want to decipher if what you have is legitimate as quickly as you can, and if it's not, you want to be able to can it and move on very quickly. Just move on through these things until you find something that shows up, and it's fairly easy at first to start making money. It's fairly easy. And like I said, one thing that just doesn't get taught is if a business is viable, okay, it's in a low competition market, it's in a higher price point market, and there's not a lot, you basically have a good product, then what you're going to find is that money is going to show up very quickly, assuming you've made a good offer, okay, and you're actually getting people on your website, or you're getting in front of people via advertising, whatever. It's going to make you money very quickly. The businesses where I've made the most money have all shown up really quickly. This is something that academia doesn't teach. Most of the standard mainstream teaching doesn't teach this. What it teaches is long, hard struggle. Okay, working hard is the acceptable drug. Okay, in society, hard work, being a workaholic, and that's why you see all the people at the Forbes 500 list when they interview those CEOs. What comes out of their mouth? Always, it's a canned answer. Well, it takes a lot of hard work. Not always. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of struggle, and it's just because they don't want to come out and say, I found a monopoly, all right, and we made money very quickly at first. At least a lot of them have, and then we built on it. I mean, that's the story of Amazon, basically. And again, I don't know all the details, but they started out selling books before anybody else was selling books online. And they started out very quickly selling a lot of books, okay? And so Bezos said to himself, well, what we have here is viable. I wonder what else we could sell. Now, if when he started selling books, he wasn't selling a lot of books, and it was a constant struggle, you wouldn't have Amazon today, okay? Because they would have canned it. Well, that's the way you got to think. So basically, the third one here, and I just lost my train of thought. So we talked about competition. We talked about what is the market, and another big one is basically what is the timing. And this is really an abstract that people tend not to think about. But the timing of these things in every business that you see, or in a lot of them, the majority of them. So just take Google for example. Take Facebook. Take Amazon. Okay? When you read articles in the mainstream or watch videos in the mainstream, you get this idea, okay, that the founders of these, and we all know their names, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Brin, Page, okay, we know their names, that they are geniuses. I've never met any of them. They could be, but it's beside the point, okay? What you don't read, okay, or you typically don't see, is that they were in the right place at the right time with the right product. And they got lucky. Okay? Now, some of the honest ones will teach this, and for those who don't believe in luck, yes, you can create your own luck, but timing something does take luck. Okay? And I like to equate back to the stock market. Okay? A lot of the people, and I would go so far as to say that the majority of people who you see who have made, millions of dollars in the stock market have typically done that in a bull market, getting lucky, okay? Or they invested in something, they were in the right place at the right time, and it just worked out. Because trying to predict a stock in the future, and again, there are a lot of great books on this. Warren Buffett talks a lot about this. Another good book about this is What I Learned Losing $1 Million in the Stock Market. And then another one is by Nassim Taleb, Fooled by Randomness. And so this idea of being able to choose the right company and make $1 million is a fallacy. Or time the market is a fallacy. what you're going to find is that there are people who guess and they happen to get it right because one or two people out of thousands are definitely going to hit it right. Okay, and then when they do and they make $1 million, they get interviewed and they say, well, I used my formula to pick this business, and then everybody believes that they're this genius when they had a lot of luck involved in doing it. And so these guys were in the right business, right place at the right time with the right product. Okay, beginning of the internet, advent of the internet. You're not probably going to see another Google now because it's a worn out idea. You're not going to see another Facebook. You're not going to see another Amazon, most likely. Okay, you're going to see something else because now the timing is old. Okay, and so let me carry this over. Okay, so something you can save yourself a lot of trouble. Okay, if when you're deciphering, if you have like a handful of things you know and you're deciding what business you want to get into, or you're deciding why your business is not working, okay, I can go back to this example. All right, writing a book in the fitness niche, okay, and selling it on Audible or Kindle or whatever is not new. Okay, the world does not need the 1 millionth author or the 1 millionth fitness book. It just doesn't need it. Okay, now that's a harsh statement, but you got to think about this logically. Now that doesn't mean that somebody won't come along, okay, and write a brilliant book, but typically what you see is that's got to be something new, talking about something new, okay, and again, timing that market right, okay, and getting some luck involved. But if you're not making any money doing it, you got to ask yourself, what is my timing for this? Okay, am I behind? Have I missed the boat on the right timing? Okay, and in most cases, for most businesses, the timing is wrong. Either they're too far ahead of time, but almost always, because you're dealing with the masses, you're behind the time. Okay, everybody's already doing it, and so from that standpoint, you want to come up with something, as hard as it might be, something that's new, okay? Something that's different, something that nobody else is doing, all right? And so when you do that, you have far easier time because you get in on the monopoly right away, okay, of that business, all right? So regardless of what you're doing, if you're a business, or if you're selling a product or a service, think about timing. Am I behind the time on this? Have I missed the boat? Or am I trying to start the next Google when the world does not need another one? Or the next social media? Or am I trying to build the next fitness blog or sell the next fitness book? All these things are behind the times. Unless you have something incredibly unique, you're going to struggle to have success doing it. Okay, and that's something that basically it's just not getting taught because it can be harsh, and it seems like when I sit here and say these things, like it seems like it's taking like personal initiative out of the equation, or this desire to compete, which is ingrained in most of us, this desire to compete and to win, because we see it in sports and we see it everywhere else, but you can be competing for years and years on end, and most people do, and they never make any money, okay? Because they're so set on trying to improve something that from a contextual standpoint, it's just probably not going to work, okay? In the long run. And the sooner, the smart people that I know and that I've worked with understand this, okay? And so they can start a business and they have the ability to quit that business very quickly when they decipher, hey, this stuff is not right. And these are the intangibles, okay? And so going back to Nikola Tesla, the day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence, okay? The physical stuff is trying to legitimize the problem. Okay, I'm selling X number of audiobooks. How do I sell more of these audiobooks? Okay, in this extremely competitive niche. Okay, basically you're trying to legitimize it. Or how do I improve what I have, even though all this competition is here? The non-physical is saying, I'm going to get out of that because there's too much competition, number one. The price points are too low, okay, so I'm going to have a hard time making any money, and the timing is wrong. I'm way behind, and I'm way late to the market. Instead, what I'm going to do is, and I don't know an example off the top of my head, okay, but instead I'm going to focus on something that I know that is a lot lower competition because I can apply all the same marketing skills to it, social media, Google ads, whatever, and drive traffic to my website selling something that is low competition. It's in a market with a high price point, okay? So I can sell, if I sell a lot of them, I'm gonna make a lot of money. I don't have to sell a shitload of the product to make a lot of money, and the timing is right because very few people are actually doing that. And just so you know up front, I've started a lot of businesses, and honestly, like, this is not something that's easy to find. I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, okay? No different than trying to make money in the stock market or time the market, which is virtually impossible. At least from that standpoint, it's really hard. People make it seem like it's so simple, okay? Well, with this, I don't want to make it seem that way. It's not easy to do. However, it can be done. And unlike trying to make money in the stock market, okay, you can actually understand and predict and know competitive niches, okay, just with research. You can know basically what the price points of that market is, and you can have an idea of if the timing, of if you've already missed the boat, or if you're in probably the right time, although the timing part of it is probably harder than anything, but there is an idea. All this stuff is available to figure out, okay, and if you do that, I'm just telling you right now, the money takes care of itself. If you have any amount of marketing ability, okay, and you can get your product on a website or however you're going to sell it, the money takes care of itself. If you have a product or service that falls into this contextual, the intangibles, okay, so hopefully you found this useful. It's something that I know that doesn't get talked about a lot. I wanted to do something different in this video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Again, we're just building this channel. I don't release a lot of content. We're going to build this thing up quite a bit. Like the video if you found it useful. Share it with somebody if you found it useful. Again, you can find me at jasonclemens.media, jasonclemens.media. And if you have any questions, visit the site, ask me there, ask me below, or you can certainly reach out on email or any of the social media accounts. Till next time, have yourself a great day.